Hey, okay, so for this video, we're going to talk a little bit about what it's like living out in the desert when you have a lot of wild animals around you and you're really actually not that far from a big city, but all the wild animals have kind of been pushed out your direction. I'm talking about Gold Canyon, Arizona. Behind me is the Superstition Mountain, and we get asked all the time what it's like to live with all these animals, or what it's like to be in the desert, or the surprise for all of those that have lived in the desert for most of their life and they come out to where it's a little bit more wild, a little less of the walls, and they see that there's a lot of animals out here, and they're kind of surprised by it. And so I thought I'd talk about the things that I know, the things that I experience, and try to dispel some of the myths or rumors, or the downright lies about what it's like being out in the desert, or how dangerous it is and stuff. So hang out with me for a little bit. So the first thing that we are going to point out is what's right behind me. Point out, pun intended, is the cholla. So this past weekend, we were doing an event for the on behalf of our Desert Nature Alliance. We went to one of the local universities, Grand Canyon University, and we were part of their Mesa event, and we were talking to people from all over the state that were very much born and raised around the desert, but surprisingly enough weren't familiar even with cholla. Now, depending on where you live, and I could say the same for myself, if you live in one of the cities in Arizona, you might not have ever seen cholla. If you don't come out to our trails or go hiking, this might not be a cactus you are familiar with. You've heard the term of, oh, cholla, jumping cholla, but that doesn't mean that you've seen it or experienced it. And so we tend to bring a little box, we call a box of bad, and it's a little nub of cholla, and we bring them out to be able to show people who've never seen it. So yeah, you can actually live in an area like the desert, but still not be familiar exactly with the things, the wildlife, and it's due to the population growth, the cities being, mostly concrete and stuff anymore. So when you scoot the animals on out, they come to places like this. They come to where they kind of stop everybody from building too much. So out here, there's a lot more space for the animals, which is something I wanted to get to. People ask me all the time, well, you see, animals? Well, yeah, due to social media and us taking little clips of things, it makes it seem like things are happening more often than not. Or you can go online and just see people finding all kinds of animals. That's because they've taken all that time and they've taken that snippet, they've put it online, and then it's just, thousands of people and they're contributing to it. So you can easily go, oh, you can see rattlesnakes everywhere in the desert. That's not true. There's just a lot of us out here who are fascinated by them, and then when we see them, we video them and we put them on our social media. So like I can show you right now, I'm sitting out here in the middle of the desert, and am I worried about snakes coming around me and on me? Well, no, I'm really not. I know my area, I kind of searched it around, but it is always possible. It is always possible that I could have one around me, but look at where I'm at. In the 7 years we've been in this location of the desert, like most of you know, I'm born and raised desert. So just take the lines off the maps, you guys. There's big old sections that are just desert. So whether you go California, Nevada, Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, we're the desert. We all have very similar, similar things. But I was raised in parts of the desert that I hadn't seen rattlesnakes until I moved out here, which is really the home of Western Diamondbacks. So if you move into some of these areas, you do need to be aware of who the locals are before you plop yourself down and are like, oh, well, out here we have areas I have hiked to that have signs that say Western Diamondback breeding, and you can't go around and say, no, this is their home. And so it's part of the ecosystem. But what I seem to listen to a lot is people cap the ecosystem off at snakes, and so they're like, oh, kill them all. Having a thriving ecosystem like we do out here requires everyone to continue thriving. Okay, so bear with me, because some of you are like, oh, snakes, I don't want to hear this. Rattlesnakes are bad. No, when you have a full ecosystem, one after another. Okay, how the food chain works. So if I have rodents, somebody else is going to eat the rodents, and then whoever's eating the rodents, somebody's going to eat them, and it goes on and on and on. And so if I start taking certain animals out, or reptiles, or however you want to look at it, snakes, out of that chain, somebody else is not going to get to eat. And then it is not a thriving and balanced ecosystem. It throws everything off. Let me continue that thought, or backtrack for some of you. Are like, what are you talking about? Okay, so from all the way down, all the way up, you have critters, whether it is little lizards or little birds or little snakes. So you have other creatures eating other creatures as they go per their size. Okay, is that starting to make sense for some of you? So if you are a baby lizard, or you are a baby whatever, you're going to need those smaller foods. So whether those are the little insects that are crawling around, or ants, or whatever they are, and it goes up the chain. So there is a food for everyone. So if we start taking food out, or there's too much food on one side or the other, it throws it off of balance. Having a very large desert around me, no walls, that allows the animals to come and go more at their natural rhythm. I'm not seeing an abundance of anybody. I'm not seeing tons of snakes around. I'm not seeing tons of rats. I'm not experiencing that. Our system around us seems to be doing fairly well. Not seeing animals just flopping over dead. Everybody's doing pretty good. Does that mean no one's dying? No, no, no. That means that when these birds are having their babies, and the lizards and everyone else is having, somebody's eating them. And I watch the roadrunners hunt after them, or you see these eggs that are open, and it's very much part of how the ecosystem keeps itself in balance. There's checks and balances. There's an abundance of baby rabbits or baby birds, and then you have those other animals and creatures that are going to eat them. If I take the snakes out of the equation, then what are my hawks or my other birds or the cats, what are they eating? It does throw off the rhythm. So you do have to be aware of who is in your ecosystem and how you are impacting it by your behaviors, whether you are killing things or trapping things or trying to move things with disregard of how else the rest of the system is working, or poisoning something, or just continuing to clear things out. By clearing more space out, then I'm forcing these creatures to have no homes. And we've seen that homeless. And so now you have extra animals competing on the same spots. So when I talk about like the things that are like, how do you live out in the desert, or what is true or what is not? Do I have snakes chasing me right now? No. Are they crawling all around? Absolutely not. Are they living here? Yeah, they're here. They're here somewhere. Anything from Sonoran gopher snakes to western diamondback to king snakes to coach whips to, I mean, we have the snakes. I could go on and on and on with just snakes alone. And then you have all the reptiles, the whole system. I am just one. We are just one of them that is out here. But no one is chasing me. No one's hunting me down right now. Coyote or somewhere, but no, it's not that kind of dangerous. It's something you just need to be aware of, all of that, who is and what is around you and how they behave, and you. But no, it's not. I'm not living someplace that is covered in snakes. I don't even have shoes on right now, which is probably bad to say, because actually it's more dangerous for the cholla that I'm near than rattlesnakes. I'm more worried about stepping on something. So that's why I'm always talking to you about putting on proper shoes. So yeah, the cholla is not going to jump at me. If you notice, I'm sitting near it, but it's not jumping out at me right now. We call it jumping cholla because it tends to roll at you. You do get close enough to it. There is some kind of, I don't know, like moisture, whatever goes to it. But it doesn't jump out. It's not just something that jumps off of the plant while you're sitting here. No. In the wind, often the little nubs of cactus that are on them, they go loose and they're gonna roll. And